David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another video. Today I have for you the second in a series of top 10 lists. Last week we took a look at the top 10 pens under $50. Pens that folks might be just starting out with when they're new to this hobby. And then today I'm going to take it up a notch and focus on pens in the $50 to $100 range. So you've tried out some starter pens and you feel like you're ready to take that next step up in quality and perhaps performance. I didn't set too many rules for myself in regard to this list. The vast majority of them have previously been reviewed here on my channel. In regard to pricing, there are times when pricing can be a bit flexible depending on your purchase location, so understand that the $50 to $100 range could be a bit loose. But if I included a higher price pen on this list, it's because it was a pen that really felt better and fit better into this group as opposed to the next higher priced list. Okay, in regard to this list, let's get right to it. And in order to get started, please join me over here at camera 2. So here we go with a look at some pens in the $50 to $100 range. And I wanted to start off with a couple of honorable mentions. First off is something from Benu. Now, I don't actually have this pen, but I wanted to show you some other Benu pens that are somewhat similar in some of their materials. This is called this is the Skull and Roses. The one that is actually priced in the $50 to $100 range is the Briolette, which is very similar in style to this with more of a band on it. What I have for you here is slightly more, but just to give you an idea, this is the Scepter, and Benu is very well known for its flair. Usually they don't do subtle. There is this one here, which is the Talisman Dragon's Blood. And then they've really started lately doing a lot of hand painting on their pens. So this one here is dedicated to the Little Prince, and you can see that it has some nice hand painting on there, and it actually glows in the dark as well. And they have a number of hand painted versions that they come out with in limited edition bases that are really nice. So if you don't own a Benu, there's some with significantly more flair and some with less, but in the price range, it's a high quality pen. Next up, we have two pens from Pelikan, and those would be pens in their 200 series. These have stainless steel nibs and are very nice. This one here is a cartridge converter pen, and then this one here is a piston. It has a nice ink window here, and the stainless steel nibs on both of these pens are very nice for this price range. Next up in the honorable mentions is something from Conklin, and that would be the Deco Crest. I just find that in this price range, that's a really interesting look to it. The Deco Crest came in either 3 or 4 different varieties, and I just thought that this one looked really sharp. This has a really nice stub nib on it, and I really like this orange underneath this kind of gunmetal exterior. It's really nice. Then next up, we actually have another pen from Conklin, which is the All American. I have a couple of different versions of it right here. It comes in a wide variety of versions. This one here, I believe, is called the Southwest, and this one was the Walnut. This walnut with this kind of gunmetal trim on it looks really sharp as well. And it's a nice wood pen for this price range. So it's a nice girthy, kind of heavier pen. So if you like heavier pens, then this might work for you nicely in this price range. And then finally, something special that I wanted to include as a honorable mention is a pen that actually has a gold nib. You can get a gold nib for under $100, and that is this Sailor Pro Gear Slim. Now, not all Pro Gear Slims are going to be under $100, but if you go up to Amazon, you can see some legitimate sellers who are selling these pens, and they happen to be under $100. I think they were $95 or something like that. I know a number of people who have purchased them, but they have nice Sailor 14 karat gold nibs on them and are really decent quality. It's just a smaller version of the Sailor Pro Gear, which is a pen that you just happen to might see on some upcoming versions of these top 10 lists. Okay, coming in at number 10 is a little bit of a cheat. It's two pens from TWSBI, and that would be their Mini series, which has their Mini as well as their Vac Mini. They're both very or somewhat small pens. You can see that the Vac Mini is slightly larger. The regular Mini is a piston filler. It has a nice piston on it, and that I do find that it's long enough for me to use unposted. It is twist to post. I'm not a huge fan of twist to post. Even when you do twist to post it, it does post easily. It's very well balanced, and it doesn't backweight the pen at all, and it's very nice. And then this is the Vac filler. That's where you pull this back, you insert it into the ink of your choice, and then when you push this down, once it gets to that point, the vacuum is released and then ink gets sucked up into the barrel. So a cool vacuum filler like this in a nice pocket pen with the translucent resin here, or the transparent resin, is a nice package. And for this price range, this is a really good offering. Next up on this list is a pen that I probably wouldn't have included on this list in its original incarnation, and that would be the Platinum Curidas. This is a pen from Platinum that was very highly hyped and very highly anticipated as basically being a vanishing point killer for a significantly less price. And when it first came out, there was just lots of issues with it. There was cracking and other issues, but they have addressed those issues, and over time, it's become a significantly better pen. I probably will be reviewing this one, kind of the revamped version, coming up in the somewhat near future. But in the $50 to $100 price range, to get a retractable nib like this, the nib writes nicely. It's just kind of high in the cool factor, and that it's unique to disassemble and unique to fill up. You kind of have to get used to how to do that, but overall, it's a highly quality pen. Coming in at number 8 is a pen from Opus 88, and that would be the Koloro. They have a number of different varieties of these pens. This has more of a translucent material in here, so you would be able to get a little bit of a look at the ink situation you have going on. But these are very nice nibs that they have on here. I just like this unique look to it and this window that they have in the cap. That's just kind of a unique look to it. Opus 88 makes some really interesting pens as well. Now, these are two of their other demonstrator pens that are a little bit larger and a little bit out of this price range. This one here was with their demonstrator pen. This was a limited edition pen from Stilo and Stile, an Italian retailer. And then this is another one of their demonstrators that I just think looks really, really sharp. And this one has is an eyedropper. You basically eyedropper this, and then you can seal off the container between the two. So it's a unique filling system, and I just kind of like this lightly frosted look with this black kind of matte trim. So Opus 88 makes some great pens, and the Koloro is well worth checking out. Coming in at number 7 is a pen from an American manufacturer, and that would be the Curidas Pen Company, and this is the ink. This is just a solid, well-made pen. This is one of those pens that you feel if you ran it over with your car, the car would be hurt before this pen would be. It's just very solidly made. The nibs are decent on here. They come in a wide variety of colors. I actually have this one here in copper, and this one has really tarnished over time. You can see here that even the section is tarnished. Now this one is a little bit more expensive, and this is one of their earlier models that have a slightly hooded nib, or it was recessed just slightly. This is probably the heaviest pen I have in my collection. This is very heavy. Now this ink right here, this is the V2 ink, and this is significantly lighter, and it's made from an aluminum, and it's overall just a really nice, neat looking pen. Kind of has a nice industrial look. I've always liked this clip and those bolts here going in, or the screws going into the clip. It just gives it a really unique look. Next up is a pen from Pilot, and that would be the Prera. This is another pocket pen. For someone who doesn't really use a lot of pocket pens, I have a lot on this list, or I have a number on this list, but I have always been really fond of this Prera. It has one of the most satisfying capping mechanisms. If I ever did a video on satisfying capping mechanisms, this would be hard to beat. This is a very, very satisfying capping mechanism on here. But the Prera is a really nice pen that comes in a variety of colors. I would be remiss if I didn't also include the Stella 90S or the Star Walker in this. This is basically the metal version of the Prera, but this pen has been discontinued by Pilot. If you could get your hands on one, if you ever see one, I would highly recommend it. This is an amazing pen. It does have a gold nib. It was slightly more than the Prera, but if you could ever find a Star Walker or a Stella 90S, the Stella 90S is what it was marketed as in the Asian markets, but this is pretty much one of my favorite pocket pens of all time. I just think it's amazing, and especially having a nice gold nib, but it's basically a metal version of the Prera. But even with the stainless steel nib, the Prera is an outstanding purchase in this price range. Coming in at number 5 is a manufacturer from Ireland, and that would be Gravitas. Gravitas is a brand where you look at their pens and you see their performance and you kind of think to yourself, they should be charging more for these pens because they have a unique look to them. They're really made nicely. This Skittles pen is one of my favorites. This one here is a lighter aluminum, and this is more of a steel pen, and it's significantly heavier. But this rainbow look on this pen is one that I really enjoy, and that it's a nice size and it performs very nicely as well. It's just really unique. So picking up a Gravitas pen, and there's a number of different styles and a number of different colors. And Ben, the gentleman behind the brand, is always coming out with something new. He's always tinkering with something new and innovative. So I would strongly recommend checking out his site. And he has a lot of things in that $50 to $100 price range that are really quality offerings. Coming in at number 4 is a pen from Lamy, and that would be the Lamy Studio. This one here is the brushed stainless steel look to it. This is a pen that I really spent a lot of time with early in my fountain pen journey. For the longest time, this Lamy right here was the most expensive pen that I had ever purchased. It's just really nice. It just felt really nice in my hand. It just felt really classy. I like the twisted, almost like propeller look to this clip. They do offer them in a number of different colors. This one here is more of a kind of a turquoise or a blue-green that looks really nice as well. This one also has the stainless steel or the metal section. Of the two, I kind of prefer the resin section or the plastic section, but this one isn't too slippery. I don't find myself slipping on this one too much, but overall, I just like the look of the black more than the metal. But overall, the Lamy Studio is a quality offering in this price range. Next up on this list is a pen with my favorite nib in this entire list, and that would be the Faber Castell Loom. This is a pen that I've had for quite some time and is one of my favorite in this price range. The nib on this pen is just outstanding. It has a very distinctive feedback that I really enjoy to it. It's one of those pens that if I had it and I was blindfolded and really couldn't feel the section at all, I could distinguish this nib from any other one in my collection. It's that distinctive and I like it. This section is a little bit polarizing. There's a lot of people that don't care for it. They feel like they prefer something that's a little bit more defined. It does have these ridges on here so that it helps you maintain your grip. It works for me. I always kind of like this semicircular end as well. You kind of use it like a worry stone. I always find myself kind of rubbing this. This pen does come in a number of different finishes and colors. I do like this matte version better than the more shiny metal version. And I know that some of them they've discontinued. I'm not sure if they have many more of the mattes that they sell. But if you can, I strongly recommend it. Coming in at number 2, we have a pen from TWSBI, and that is the Vac700. Now, this one is the Vac700. There is a Vac700R, which is the more modern version of this pen. There's very little difference that you're going to really notice between the two. Just some of the guts have been improved a little bit. That I really like a lot of things about this pen. First of all, it's a cool vacuum filler, and that it has a really nice translucent barrel here, or transparent barrel, and that it gives you a really good look at the ink that's going on in here. The TWSBI nibs I've always been fond of. It feels really neat in the hand, and that it just has a really cool and distinctive look to it. They also came out with the Vac700 Iris, which I really like, which has the rainbow PVD finish on it, and then even some rainbow on some of the other metal sections. So it just looks really cool. And even this one was under $100. So the Iris especially is probably the one that I would choose of this two, just because it has a dash of color without necessarily being too over the top. But both of these pens are outstanding. And finally, coming in at number 1, we have a pen that is very special to me. It is another TWSBI, and it is the Diamond 580. They also make a Diamond 580 AL, or aluminum version, where there are some aluminum accents here, especially on the section. But this is a pen that really kicked things off for me. This is one of my first fountain pens I owned, and I purchased this one because I thought it looked interesting and unique. And then after using it, I was thinking, this is the coolest thing that I own. And if this pen is so cool, then what other cool things are out there? And that's kind of what got me started on my fountain pen journey. I wasn't necessarily too into it, but then after I got this pen, I was just really into it because there's just so much going on here. You could tell that it's even slightly stained because I had this thing inked for a very long time and my cleaning habits weren't as good as they are now. So there is some slight staining that's in there. It's a nice piston filler. Again, it has a nice transparent barrel. You can see the ink sloshing around. It's a big pen, especially when you post it. It's a very long pen. I usually prefer not posting it, but it's something attention grabbing. You know, if you started using this pen around the office, even though it's a very reasonably priced, people would ask, hey, what's that? Or they would notice that you're writing with something a little bit different than a normal pen. And on top of that, it performs very nicely. So between the fact that it performs nicely, it looks really cool, and then it has some sentimental value to me as far as kicking off my hobby, it just means a lot to me. But again, in this price range, if someone says what pens should they buy, usually my first recommendation is a TWSBI Diamond 580. So hopefully that gives you some ideas or some things in the $50 to $100 price range to purchase. Look forward to the next list coming up where we'll take things up a notch. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.